Hi guys, this is Guy, Get75 Mobile Infotech. Welcome to a new video. Today I would like to discuss one of the more interesting devices I've come across last year, and that's the Xperia L1. It is the cheapest and most low-end Sony phone you can get right now. Also, it's right in there with the competition with all the other cheap Android phones, which we have seen great improvement in. You get more for less. And if the same holds up for this device, I'll tell you all about it in this new video. So for you guys in America, you've probably come across it in the Best Buy, seen it next to the XA1, which is a slightly more higher end model, really mid-class, as this one is really a low-end phone. So let's just start with the look of the device, the design, and I think actually that's been one of the main things that stood out to me, because I've been carrying this device for about 3 weeks, almost a month, and I've been asking people what do they think the price of this phone is, and most people give me like $300, $400 maybe, because actually it looks like a flagship in many aspects. And the funny thing is, right now, I think you can get it for around $150 or cheaper, probably much cheaper in a few months. And that is very interesting and speaks very highly of the device. The construction is made out of plastic, so polycarbonate. Thickness is about 8.7 millimeters, so not very thick, not very thin either. The screen is a 5.5 inch 720p resolution, and what it does have, what's very nice, is it has pretty slim bezels. And what's also funny about the design is it just looks like another Sony flagship. So here, for instance, I have the C5 Premium, and you can see that the measurements are almost identical, and it even has a lower body to screen ratio. The C5 Premium is of course a little thinner, but not that noticeable if you ask me. So if I have them up like this, you don't see much difference in thickness. So that is a very interesting accomplishment for this price bracket. So if we go to the back, the device does have an NFC chip, which is very nice. That's very common for phones around this price range to lack that feature. So mobile payment, Android Pay works perfectly with this device. It has a 13 megapixel camera with a flash, capable of 1080p. And if we go to the front, we have a 5 megapixel selfie camera. No front-facing speakers. The speaker, which is quite loud by the way, resides on the bottom of the device. And also very interesting for this price bracket, it's got USB Type-C. So that is very nice to have that included in such a cheap device. And up top, of course, we've got the 3.5 millimeter jack, an extra microphone. So you saw it has two microphones, one on the top, one at the bottom. Buttons are very basic. So it's got just a straight power button, and here it's got a volume rocker. So no fingerprint scanner as you have on the more expensive Xperia devices, and also not the rounded iconic Xperia omnibalance design button, also absent from this phone. But keep in mind, it's a phone just slightly up $100, so that's still a very nice package overall. And here resides the micro SD card, so it's underneath a flap. Not really a fan of flaps, but it works. So here you've got the SIM card and micro SD card. I think it takes micro SD cards up to about 256 gigabytes. So that's also very nice. The device comes with 16 gigabytes internally, 2 gigabytes of RAM. And if we just further up the spec sheet, it's got a quad-core MediaTek processor, a 6795T, so What's nice about this processor is it's actually it's not the greatest processor, it's very low end, but Sony has tweaked it and they've gone for the more souped up version, which has a slightly higher clock speed, and that enables for things to run a little bit more fluently. And what's most important is it's got the Mali GPU, and the most phones with this processor have a single core Mali GPU, and this one has a dual core Mali GPU. So as you'll see later on in the video, that equates to pretty nice performance, especially for the price range. So if you finish the list of features of the device, it's got Wi-Fi B, G, and N. That's also something that's not always available on devices of this price bracket. It's got a fairly big battery. It's about 2620 mAh, so that's a pretty powerful, potent battery for this price range. If you compare it to what the C5 has, that one has a larger battery of 3430. But because this processor doesn't need a lot of power, I found the battery life to be much more efficient than on a lot of other phones. Even my iPhone 10 or the C5 Premium won't outlast this phone because it's just a lot more efficient with the battery. Funny enough, at 180 grams, both they weigh the exactly same weight. So that's pretty interesting. So let's look at that screen. Like I said, 720p, 5.5 inches. That's why a lot of people also think that it's a flagship device because of the high screen size, the big screen size. And I must say it's a pretty comfy screen. It isn't the best in the world, but viewing angles or anything like that are very, very, very acceptable for the price range. It doesn't have any special triluminous or X-Reality engine features that you get on the more expensive Sony phones, but yeah, it's a very, very decent screen. Brightness is also pretty high, so that's very, very yeah, that makes quite a headline on such a cheap device. So that really jumps out from other devices in this price range, together with the performance, of course. So the software that this boy is running on is Android Nougat 7.0, if I'm correct. So not the latest Android iteration, but I must say it's very stable, runs very smoothly, and there's been no word on the upgrade policy on this phone, if it's gonna get Android 8 or even Android 7.1. You see the November 6th security patch, so that's to be expected from a cheaper phone. But overall, what matters to me in a cheap phone is if the stability, if the software is right, without any bugs. Unfortunately, I did discover one bug that they really need to fix, and that is the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi antennas, which tend to not always work so great. So if you have Bluetooth enabled and Wi-Fi enabled, then the Wi-Fi is not going to work very nice, and vice versa if you have only one of the two enabled. So for instance, I've got Bluetooth off and I got my Wi-Fi on, then the Wi-Fi is very nice and also very potent, so I get good readings, good signals. But if I turn on Bluetooth, then the Wi-Fi starts tripping up. So that's something they really need to fix, and it's clearly like one of the lesser point of the phones. So if we look at the display, we might as well do like a video clip. Always helps. So this is always a nice movie to determine the screen quality of your phone. You can see the viewing angles are top notch, especially for this price range again. It's very, very, very nice. Also fairly a decent contrast, as you can see. So the lower brightness levels of the movie look very convincing, very deep as well. And the colors are very nice if you have them on the correct angle. And you can see I can really tilt it pretty far away, and won't really give away any of the screen quality. So if I go up close, you can see that's slightly getting pixelated, but if you keep it at a decent distance, then it just looks very sharp, especially for 720p display on such a big canvas. So 720p resolution on 5.5, that's not a very high pixel density, but still it's good enough to enjoy some decent content on YouTube, as you can see. So with that said, let's jump right into performance. So I have to say, launching of apps and everything like that go pretty smoothly, pretty fast. It's not juddery free on the more heavy apps like Facebook, which is constantly loading all kind of movies on the timeline. But I've seen much worse in this price range, and once some stuff is loaded, then you can see it's fairly smooth. So if we go to another app, let's see if I've got Insta on here. Yes. You see that it loads up pretty fast. It even remembers where I last left the phone. And you can see that on Instagram it's pretty decent, pretty fast. If I go up to my home page, you can just you can see it's very fluent in operating. Also, switching from apps is pretty quick. Of course, that's this Android 7 feature. It has all the Android 7 features. So even if you want to do a split screen multitasking, it's just gonna do that if it's supported, of course. Let's just start up Spotify, which has been nicely updated to accommodate this feature, I must say. The best of all apps, apart from Google's own apps. So I must say with Spotify, that's a really nice upgrade. So let's go to Facebook. So here you see Spotify is really nicely updated for this kind of stuff. So you see the player and everything, just really nicely adapts to it. So that's very nice, and you can see that both of the apps remain pretty smooth. If you want to go somewhere, so yeah, that's all very incredible for such a cheap device. You can see that it's nearly I think mid-range is an okay term to use in terms of performance and what it can do. So that is just incredible, actually. So naturally, that all has to do with what I said earlier. So the souped up processor, Mali GPU. Let's just see how it translates to gaming. So I have a few games installed on here. So loading times on Android phones vary from very fast to very slow, but I have to say this one does all right. As you can see, it launched the game pretty fast, pretty decent again. But especially this game is very a lot of processes involved in launching it on an Android phone, as it ties into your online account and it needs to download some extra content. So see, so it puts a real strain on it. So I think we'll probably have to skip this game for now. Updating, we might as well try another game. So this is a very popular game on all mobile platforms, the new Mario game. So let's just see how it performs on this phone. As what it is, a big screen accommodates for nice gameplay. I must say it's loading at a decent speed. So naturally, all kind of pop-ups. So let's just do a little race. Let's do a stage. I think that's a little better. Oh. So as you can see, nice colors, nice quality. Great sound again. Just very nicely done. So that's a very nice nice gaming experience you get on this device. It's just very fast. So if we go back home. So yeah, performance, I mean, daily operation on the phone is as smooth as any Sony phone you've used. And you can see the main slowdowns you can see in starting up the heavy games or the heavy apps that have a lot of content loaded up. But you can see it's very fast, even if I wanted to resume the game, and that just happens instantly. We can do some RAM management and go back to Spotify. You can see it takes a little bit while longer for it to reload, but let's see, YouTube. Kept the movie open, so that's also very nice. So even decent multitasking performance, as you could see with a split screen and everything like that, that it does that really right. Of course, it has the standard Sony features. So if you just go into the theme sections, you have all the themes are compatible with it. So that's a very nice addition. Always welcome to have themes that just work across the board and not exclusively to one device or another. Also, you have all the latest options of the Xperia home interface. So if we go back to that menu, you can see you can just change the roster, so how many apps you want to have, how big they scaled. Of course, we have transitions, effects that you can use. So all of that is present. The only thing that's missing for me is the double tap to sleep and the double tap to wake feature. So it does have double tap to sleep, but double tap to wake does not work. So that's a little bummer that doesn't work. But aside from that, everything is compatible. The only thing that also is too bad that it doesn't do the keyboard skins, so that is something that it does on the other versions. So I think this is a pretty good example. For instance, I have the same theme loaded up on the C5 Premium. I think it's more of a software thing, and here it does load up the keyboard skin, and I think that has to do with that all the newer Xperias come with the without the Xperia keyboard, so I had to install the Xperia keyboard manually. And if the Xperia keyboard is integrated, then you get these nice effects that go with the theme. So that's a bit of a bummer, but that's something that's true of all new Xperias starting from 2016. And if you guys want, you can let me know in the comments. I could do a video explaining all the differences between the different type of software that you have on these devices. One thing that they did take from the C series and other previous Xperias, so a function that has been dropped in the latest Xperias that are run on Android 8.0 Oreo is moving apps to the SD card, and that is a very nice and convenient feature, and almost critical with devices that have 32 gigabytes or lower. So you can see here, I don't have that much memory left. So if I go to putting on all of my data to the SD card, I can do that. So I can do pictures, I can do videos, I can do music and apps. So that is very nice. I can just put apps on my SD card, which has, as you can see, a lot of storage available, almost 35 gigs. That is just very nice and enables you, especially for such a cheap device, to run more apps on it than it could usually do for the price bracket. Because this is a feature that is not available on all Androids. I know the Korean manufacturers LG and Samsung have, for instance, eliminated this feature from their Android builds. I think Motorola, Sony, and HTC do have a variation of putting apps to the SD card. So that's a very nice and very welcome feature, and certainly a feature that distinguishes this phone from other phones in its price category. So in terms of being compatible, if we go to the camera, it has some decent quality pictures, but not anything to write home about. So you have your standard features here. So you have a resolution to 30 megapixels, but of course then it changes the aspect to 4:3, which is less than ideal. So you've got object tracking, which is pretty nice. That is something that was introduced in the high-end Sony phones from 2016. And it's pretty nice that you have this feature on here. So let's see if it actually works. Yeah. So it works pretty traditional. Very nice feature to have on such a cheap phone. Of course, you can do some other settings like the brightness and the color gamut, color temperature. Of course, you have manual modes where you can play a lot with those kind of features. So, for instance, exposure, autofocus level. So that is all very nice that it is included. Of course, we've got video. Video maxes out at 1080p on 30 frames per second. So that's pretty common also for such a cheap device in the cheaper price bracket. What I did manage to install though is, because you see that it's missing the camera apps, as it just has 3 options down here. If we compare it to the more expensive Xperia phone, you can see around here that it has all of the camera features. So all the camera apps are on here. So for instance, 4K and stuff like that, time burst, time lapse. All of those features are available, only you have to install them separately. And they won't, how do you call it? They won't be on in this camera interface, but they'll be just separate apps on the phone. So that is pretty interesting. So for instance, the one I've managed to install is AR effect, so you can't see that in any camera app, but if I launch it from here, it should still work and provide the same functionality that you're used to. So that's very cool. And just very nice to have. So if I could just get it to work. Yeah. So you can see it also runs pretty smooth. You can do a lot of things. So that is just incredibly interesting. That all of this stuff is just working on this phone. So very awesome, and really contributes to making this a pretty stellar experience, especially for such a cheap phone. So camera quality, as you can see from these samples, not the best. Selfie cam is alright with 5 megapixels. It's not the sharpest you've ever seen, but it'll do a decent job for your Instagram or Facebook feeds. So all in all, they have, let's say, a middle of the road camera experience. Far from the best, but also not quite the worst. And on the whole, anything you can expect from a cheap $100, $150 phone. So like I said, performance is really nice and very decent for the price bracket. We can do a little bit of side-by-side testing on this. So let's see. So let's do Facebook. So you can see slightly faster on the C5, but not much in it really. It's just, again, incredible speed. You can see the C5 is a little smoother with scrolling around. Not buttery smooth, but that's more to do with the Facebook app. But still, not a bad experience on a cheap phone, and you can really, now that it's loaded some content, really keep up with the Xperia phone. So that is with the more expensive Xperia phone. So that is pretty incredible. As Facebook now with all those movies, like I said, it's just so heavy, so intense. So let's try another one. Let's try YouTube. So again, slightly faster on the C5 Premium, but again, so little in it. Let's try loading movie. Oh, okay, that's the same ad. Very nice. As you can see, it was slightly faster on the C5. So on the whole, what can I tell you about this phone? Well, especially as the price goes down, so I think it's $150, $160 now. I think it started around $200, around $150 and dollars and lower. It's a very, very decent purchase. You get a lot more than you bargained for. You get the big screen experience on the cheap. Very decent performance, outperforms most of its competitors in the price bracket. As okay cameras, I guess for social media it should be enough. Still won't compare it to anything like the former flagships like the Xperia C5 or even the XA1 devices or XA devices from last year. It just can't compete with those on that level. Downsides, of course, are the lack of a fingerprint scanner if you really need that. I know some people that are desperate for that. Other people don't care as much. If you don't care as much, then that's not something you're gonna miss. Of course, it omits a metal construction and instead has a polycarbonate plastic construction. So if you don't like that, then obviously then you need to look elsewhere. What you do see is instead of having a metal body, the internals are more advanced than most of its competitors, so that's what you get back. Screen is, although in spec not very special, in actuality is pretty darn good for the price bracket. So it has decent viewing angles. It can get very bright. As you can even see with this team, now that I bring it close up, you can actually see the icons a lot better. But you can also see the sharpness is quite high. And that has to do with color rendering and interface rendering. I don't know how Sony does that, but it gives up a very sharp impression. Should even lower the brightness, I think, because it's just a little too bright to see everything clearly. So now you can actually see the icons a little bit more clearly. So that is just something that's very nice, and I can really recommend this device if you're looking for something cheap. You like the swift Sony Xperia experience, so very fast, fluid. Updates is something, again, that remains a question mark, but that's with most of the cheapest phones by any brand. But the software that is running on now is pretty stable, even though I've had some problems with Bluetooth and Wi-Fi on this unit. So what I've seen, the trick is that you use either of the antennas, so not at the same time. But I've had it work. For instance, with Spotify, streaming Spotify and connecting to Bluetooth headphones at the same time. So it might just be this unit, but it's something that I had a little trouble with in the beginning. Now, actually, I think the bug is gone. I've just had a lot of instances where I could just use it with the headphones, wireless headphones that I own. So I don't know if that's a real downside. Yeah, another thing that I haven't spoken about a lot is, of course, the speakers. And I must say, even though it's a bottom-firing speaker, it's pretty loud. So I find that that's the case with more of the cheaper devices that are a little larger. So that's not really anything special. Yeah, so button feedback, stuff like that. Not overly expensive, but does the job and doesn't feel too cheap. Yeah, and the flap, I don't know how good it's gonna last, but it feels very decent. Feels overall actually as a very hard to break, hard to damage device. Also, if we're just talking retrospective, as you can see, I've been using it without a case, and I don't really appear to have any scratches or dings on the device, so that's also a pretty nice thing. What I do see is that it does attract a lot of dust pretty quickly, so you have to put it off with your hands occasionally. But other than that, I think the body, even the glass, has the right coating, so your finger swipes over pretty nicely, as it does on more expensive phones. Also, no scratches on the screen, I have to say, so that's also pretty good. I think maybe slight scratches, but really hard to see. I can even pull them up on the camera. So yeah, let me know in the comments if you guys want to know anything more about the Xperia L1. I, for one, can recommend it if you're looking for a cheap device, a cheap Android device. Let's just omit the fact that it's a Sony device, but a cheap Android device with decent screen, decent camera, decent battery life, and just decent user experience, speed overall. So good enough to play the heaviest games, and might experience some slowdowns like you saw in the more heavier apps, mainly Facebook actually, because Instagram and Twitter and stuff run pretty nice on it. So yeah, guys, this has been my full review and impressions of the Xperia L1. I will also probably feature it in an upcoming video where I compare all of the ROMs that you can get on Xperia devices. So the difference between Android 8, Oreo 7.1.1 on the Xperia C5, 7.1.1 on the 2016 models like Xperia X, and 7.0 on the lower end model of Xperia. So that's been it for me for this video, and I hope to see you guys in my next video. Also, if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And I've been dealing with some issues with storage of projects that I'm working on. That's the main reason why I haven't been able to upload as frequently. Hoping to get that out of the way in the coming months, and try to upload more regularly. So again, thanks for watching, and see you in my next video. A lot of stuff coming up.